In this video we'll talk about some of the important settings that need to be established when you first create your Google News site. We'll go to the settings menu and then the general submenu first of all. In this section we have the actual site title. Now it's critically important that you choose the title that you want and keep it the same. After you've submitted your site to Google News and received acceptance, your site title cannot change. It needs to stay the same. You may be able to change it with permission from Google later on, but that requires interaction with them and getting them to take action and so on. This tagline is actually not used anywhere by us, but I would remove that just in case it shows up in some esoteric place. This email address will be used by default on the Contact Us page, although you could change it there. And there's some other items here about how you want to display dates and times and so forth, which for us will be overridden by our AP style dates and times plugin. I also want to direct your attention to the discussions. Well, let's hit Save Changes before we move on. And then we'll go to the discussion settings section and just use this as an opportunity to talk about whether you want comments under your articles or not. If you decide that you want comments, then you really will need to monitor and moderate those comments in some way. You'll want a plugin that prevents spam comments from being posted, first of all. And secondly, even those comments that are written by real human beings will probably need to be read and approved by you. So because of that overhead requirement of having to read all of the comments, and because news sites get a great deal of traffic, typically I do not allow people to post comments in my news sites. So I uncheck that box, and usually I uncheck the others just for good measure because they're not really applicable if I'm not allowing comments on the site. Now that may be a decision that you change later on, and there's sometimes some value in comments from an SEO perspective, just because comments represent modifications to the web page, and Google likes freshness on the web page. It also represents additional content that may have keywords that someone may search for. But most Google News traffic comes by virtue of being in Google News and in the first few days that you publish the article. Now certainly if your Google News site is around for a couple of years, then the pages, even the older articles, will gain authority in Google, collect links, and you may have want comments there because of that. But my recommendation to begin with is to not have comments. The next area that's really important is permalinks. Permalink is the URL that your articles appear under when you've posted them, and the default is something like this: your domain name followed by P and an ID associated with the post. Google likes you to have a numerical identifier as part of your URL name for each article. So this is a format that I use quite often, and it is the post name, so that you don't just have a number that's unknown to everyone. You actually have the name of the post, which is the equivalent of the title of the article in the URL name itself. So when someone sees that article appear in Google search results, they actually will see the title in the URL name. And then to comply with Google's technical standards, we include the post ID, which is that numeric ID of the post. And if the last item is kind of optional, we often include the author name also in the post, because that way if you have tools like Google Analytics or some other tools that you use to look at statistics, you can group your articles by author and count the number of hits, the amount of traffic that a particular author's articles have generated. And for example, if you wanted to pay an article based on traffic or based on AdSense or whatever, it's kind of actually nice to have the author identified in the URL. There are other ways to track authors, of course, but having it in the URL just gives you more flexibility. So having typed in this permalink setting, we will make sure and click Save Changes so that that's part of our permanent setup. Now, earlier we had installed a plugin called Google Privacy Policy. So we'll click here, and it tells us that to make this work, what we need to do is we'll create a privacy policy page, and then we'll simply cut and paste this little piece of text onto the page so that the full text of the privacy policy can be automatically inserted by the plugin on our page. So those are the primary settings that I wanted to cover with you. There are some other ones under writing, reading, media, etc., but these are the ones that are really important for your Google News implementation.